morning, Saturday, 2:26, and today we have the Wicked Craniums team on. So joining me today is Wicked Derb. How are you doing this morning? Or it's
Um,
it's not morning for you, right?
no, it's 10:32 p.m. for me.
Yeah, and you're in Australia. Is that correct?
I'm in India
Oh,
right
you're
now.
in India. Is another person on your team in Australia?
No,
I
not
might be
really.
confusing it.
The core, so me and my co-founder, we both are from India.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I must have gotten some bad intel on that one. But welcome either way. Today we're gonna sort of go over what wicked craniums are and sort of how you guys have been going up to this point, and then some exciting stuff you guys have planned moving forward. So let's just, I guess, first talk about what wicked craniums is and how it sort of came about.
Okay, so I think there's a distinction between what Wicked Craniums was when it started and what it is now. There's been like an evolution of Wicked Craniums itself. Um, I can tell you the story of how it started. So my co-founder, Wicked Doob, he was a friend of mine in school, and we both went to the United States to do our college. And I was visiting him just to meet him in LA, and we were like, "Hey, let's. Have you seen this website called OpenSea? Like, uh, there are these images that are selling for insane prices. What is that?" Like, we were like wrapping our heads around that, uh, and then we were like, "This is interesting. Let's just do a hobby project, a weekend project around this idea, and see what happens." And then that hobby project took a month or two to develop. We found hash masks and board apes, and we pivoted into the generative PFP 2D category, and then uh, ultimately then we launched. So it was just like, it wasn't started as a kind of a business. It was just started as a hobby project, and
Yeah.
then it turned into what it is today.
Yeah, and so, uh, when did you guys launch?
So we launched uh, in on the 20th of June. So
Yeah.
if you remember, Board
Yeah,
Ape
so
launched.
I think the day that you guys launched, I was golfing. And
Oh,
the funny story that I have with craniums is I'm sitting like on the golf course on hole whatever, like 6 or something, and people are like texting me, "Oh, there's this mint happening. There's this mint happening." And I'm like sitting on the side, I'm like trying to figure out if I can mint or not.
wow.
That that's one of the more memorable mints I had, I'd say, because I was like specifically not at home and people are like, "Oh, you got to get on this, like look at this." And yeah, I remember the craniums, and you guys have this specific style to the art where I'm not sure if it's all of them, but at least most of them have that sort of like nail in the top of the forehead in the skull.
Yeah.
um is that something that you guys sort of went back and forth on? Like, how did that specific piece and something we talk about a lot, like with, say, the doodles, they have their rainbow puke. It's something that what the collection is just from seeing that feature. So, did you guys think of that when you were creating this nail?
Yes. So um, when we were looking at Board Apes, and they had just released, we were like, wait, these are apes, but they have a very specific thing about them, the fact that they're bored.
Hmm.
Uh, and then we thought we can launch like a skull collection, but then how do we add a very specific thing that would recognize us? And then we came up with the skull idea.
Yeah, so I'm pulling up some of them on the screen now for those watching the video of it. Um, now, I think what's important with this to note is you guys have since June, there's been a lot of different things you guys have implemented. There's things like staking, there's things like the companions. Could you go into a little of what you guys have already accomplished as far as these first 6 7 months?
Sure. So um in the first 3 to 4 months, we delivered a bunch of stuff. We accomplished a lot, and we were moving quite fast. After the first 4 or 5 months, we realized, wait, uh, let's take it a little easy. Let's strategize long term, and let's whatever we are delivering, whatever we are putting out, it should be impactful. It should be like actually useful. So in the first 4 months, we had our Wicked Stallions, which was the companion drop. We had a merch drop. We revamped our website. We uh, came out with staking. We came out with rewards for staking, which was a Halos collab and a comic. We did a collab with Pop Wonder and stuff like that. Like uh, a bunch of mints, mints on Polygon and mints on the mainnet. Uh, at the end of it, we realized that wait, stop giving people tokens, because
Hmm.
that that liquid that devalues the whole thing. So lately, we haven't offered any kind of airdrop except the recent airdrop on Polygon, which was a collab with Zaz.
Yeah, so tell me a little about how you guys have gotten connected to these other artists, and are you just actively looking for them? Have they found you, just maybe being part of the community and being a holder themselves? How difficult has that been?
Um, mm, Finding artists is not that difficult. Uh, at one point, we just sent out a tweet saying, "Hey, artists, just message us," and we got a lot of messages from different artists, good, like the popular ones and the not so popular ones, and so on and so forth.
Um,
And then we just decided, hey, let's just do this. This was particularly an interesting one because he actually made around 200 of these, and people got it as a reward for staking.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, this is cool. I like the Halos, some of the other collections they've had. Oh, this one's pretty gnarly too.
yep, and um, Pop Wonder was pretty good. There was Archangel. There was Des Lucreci. Um, so we've had a lot of collabs with like artists, which was interesting.
Yeah, and that's also good, sort of just connecting with different artists in the space, because that's what a lot of this boils down to at the end of the day is like the art behind it, and these artists are growing and they're trying to get their name out there. So I'm sure they are pretty excited to combine with you guys. Are there other like PFP projects that you've been working with, whether it's a collab in this sense or doing whitelists, stuff like that?
Um, we have not worked with uh, any of the PFP projects. No, we did have a talk with Gutter Cats, their devs, and I mean, At the point, we did not go through with any collab, but it was on the table. Maybe in the future we can do something.
Yeah.
We I think we did one collab with a generative collection, but the community wasn't very happy about that for some reason. Community likes I think the community likes it if we collab with like individual artist as opposed to a full whole collection. But
Hmm.
I think in the future we can do we might uh, do a collab with Death Bats Club. I don't know if you're aware of that collection, the Avenged Sevenfolds collection, because the communities are very intertwined. A lot of cranium holders are also Death Bats holders, and vice versa, and
Hmm.
they have the same vibe. So, we've had a very close relationship with their team. So we might do a collab there.
Yeah. So, what have you guys found as far as things that have worked for you, maybe haven't worked for other projects? Are you taking ideas from other projects, collabing maybe in that sense? I know obviously like you guys had the stallions, the companion airdrop that other projects have done, and the staking side of it. Um, is there anything that you maybe looked at and thought we're never gonna do that? That doesn't make any sense.
Um, we haven't been like we're never gonna do something specific, but we've stayed away from making a game. Uh, Specifically because we are not that's not our core competency. If we make a game, it might not be a good one, and what's the point of making a whole game if like people are going to use it for a week and then not
Yeah.
use it, right? uh, so we don't want to promise that. And then the second thing that we stayed away from is launching an ERC20 token, because the regulatory issues associated with it is problematic, and like once you release a token you can't take it back. It's out there, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
um, uh, so that those two things are something that we have stayed away from. We have gone towards lately as of roadmap 2.0. Our plan is to go towards music, because a lot of the kind of people who connect with the craniums are also the kind of people who are into you know metal music, alternative music, biker culture, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Alternative culture, essentially everything that counts within that. So we've gravitated towards that community.
Yeah. So I guess let's go over the roadmap 2.0 a little bit. Um, you guys launched this about a month ago, right?
Right.
Um, and so how's that been going? Are you finding that the community is pretty happy about what's expected and how things have been transpiring so far?
I think the community is pretty happy with it. That's my sense of it. They're patient about it because they know that this is not something that you can just push out all of a sudden. This is
Yeah.
more of a brand building thing. Uh, we have hired a bunch of people to work on this, for community management, for logistics, for actually talking to different bands, metal bands, rock bands. Uh, the idea behind the second roadmap is that Wicked Craniums should be the center of uh, these music bands,
Hmm.
different music bands that want to come into NFTs and have their communities build an on-chain presence.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so are you looking for specifically bands? Are they all over the world? Are they in from specific places? Do you already have specific bands and targets you're going for?
Yes. So essentially, we're talking to the people who manage these bands.
Okay.
People who either are kind of an agents for them, who talk on their behalf, or the bands themselves. So our aim essentially is to go talk to them, make a deal with them, uh, and onboard them essentially. Um, and it goes in the way it goes is like so Wicked Craniums, the parent company, if I may say that, of Wicked Craniums is called Reckless Labs.
Hmm.
What we'll do, what our strategy is that, hey, Reckless Labs is proficient with uh, NFTs. We've been here for a long time. Uh, we'll help you bootstrap your own community around maybe your own NFT, but Wicked Craniums will be the center of it all. So something along those lines. And essentially, me and my co-founder have been busy doing that, um, going and meeting these people, and getting them to form this whole community readily around Wicked Craniums.
Yeah. So for the Reckless Labs, is that another one that you're sort of collabing with these other teams, or is that more of like an investment company kind of style to it?
Um, so Reckless Labs was Wicked Craniums. You can think of Reckless Labs as the company and Wicked Craniums as the project.
Okay.
And Reckless Labs has Wicked Craniums under it, but it also has maybe a VC fund within it, and maybe a consultancy, Web3 consultancy, and maybe a uh, another. We are also building other platforms under the company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So then planning on doing stuff in the music side of things. Um, have we haven't really seen a ton in music industry. I think that's sort of the next sector that's going to get hit a little bit with this wave of NFTs. What do you think is currently lacking in the music side of NFTs?
Um, so when you say music NFTs, there are actually two kinds of music NFTs. NFTs
Sure.
that are actually music, and then NFTs that are launched by uh, music like artists, celebrities to capture their audiences. So we are actually focusing on the latter, where
Okay.
you know
Like
a celebrity.
Dirty Bird was one that I know
Exactly.
is that style, right?
Yeah, we've talked to Dirty Bird, Avon Sevenfold. We know all of them. So that capturing of your community on chain uh, is what we're going for, and what we're going for is specifically capturing the alternative and metal community and putting it
Okay.
on Wicked Craniums. So like metal bands, you can whatever iconic metal bands you can think of, we're going for them.
Okay,
um
so are you targeting you're basically targeting a different audience in a sense than are currently in NFTs?
yeah, yeah. So the the way I look at it is, if you want hodlers, you gotta put your NFT in the hands of a person, so that your NFT is the first NFT they've bought,
Mhm.
or your NFT is specifically an NFT that whose community they connect with.
Okay.
So uh, yeah, a lot of people who are not actually in this. Like for example, Matt Shadows and uh, Sin from Avenged Sevenfold. They so they're the band members of Avenged Sevenfold, right? So when they came into the community, a lot of their fans just came into the community just behind them. And our vision is that, hey, what if we do that across the board with a bunch of other bands?
Yeah. So, have you found that most bands that you talk to, have they heard of NFTs before? Are they already trying to get into it but haven't had the direction? Or are you finding these are people that just completely never heard of NFTs and they're asking, why would I ever want to do this?
Oh no, they've heard of it. They're curious to learn about it, and they're excited to actually work on it. So it's not a sell. It's more of a, hey, this is. In fact, they are looking for ways to enter the space. It's just that they might not necessarily have an easy path to enter the space right now.
So then, what's sort of the plans, sort of next steps, I guess is one way to word it, on is it going to be another subset of Reckless Labs, or if you're a cranium holder, similar to the staking, you're going to, if you're a holder, you get on these lists to get maybe tickets to shows or just the connections to the bands that way, or is it going to be separated by each of these bands?
It depends from deal to deal, like uh, whatever the term sheet defines. But in general, we want to give some incentive to cranium holders, either a discount on mint, or you get whitelisted if you're a cranium holder or something like that, or uh, we want to give some kind of physical incentive, tickets to shows, maybe a whole section in a concert for cranium holders, backstage passes, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think that's what people always keep talking about. They want NFTs to go down that path where it's like the utility behind it. And if you're already a fan of this band, if you're already trying to get some of their merch, like maybe you get merch discounts because you're holding one of the NFTs. And I think
Mm.
that's something that is still relatively untapped. So do you think that this is going to be a big push in 2022 with brands and companies that are coming out, not just music, but um, I've always thought the way that ticket sales are sort of going to go with music is turning them into NFTs, because I mean we see things like Ticketmaster that you're buying and selling these tickets already and they're taking this massive fee. But if you take out the middleman and it's just as an NFT, do you think we're going to see something like that and in the near future with music?
Oh yeah. uh, I have a friend who works at Ticketmaster, and she was telling me that, and this wasn't recent, like this was months ago, that they've been discussing NFTs a lot, uh, because the way I see NFTs for like physical products or physical like things like tickets is like, uh, when you issue an NFT, you automatically give it an open secondary market. And uh, like, sure, if I buy a shoe, there's a secondary market for it, which is eBay. But like that secondary market isn't a proper, like, that's it's not a proper, it's not trustless. There are a lot of problems with it. Now something like a ticket, you don't need a physical thing with it. You can transfer it electronically, and to have as long as a ticket follows a certain standard, as long as it can be traded on a secondary market, that kind of financial flexibility, or like access to the financial system of trading tickets, hasn't been there. So if it gives you access, then eventually someone's going to do it. uh, there's no doubt that something like this is going to be out there very soon.
Yeah. So what else are you guys working on? Is it basically just focused on the music NFTs, or are you planning any of these sort of like in-person events, like South by Southwest is coming up, NFTLA? Are you guys trying to go to anything like that?
uh, we were at NFT NYC. We had our events there. We are going to be at NFT LA. We are planning a big event there. uh, so yeah, we'll be there, and all
Yeah.
craniums are invited.
Can you tell us a little about the event, or is it still in progress?
So I think it's still there's a lot to still plan out, but what we are doing is we're calling in a bunch of musicians. uh we are hosting the event, and I mean there's not going to be anything special in the event, but it's hopefully it'll be a nice occasion for people to meet each other. um
And like some networking.
yeah.
Yeah. At the NFT NYC, did you have a lot of holders come out and meet with people there?
Oh yeah, we had an event at a place where you could throw axes. It was an axe throwing party,
Yeah, those
uh,
are fun.
and a lot of people came out, and I think they had fun.
Yeah. Now for sort of more on like the future of you guys, do you see like this year, like the early half of the year, going to be when a lot of um this stuff is gonna start moving, or is this going to be like a second half of the year when a lot of this starts to really develop with the music side?
So we've been working on this since the last quarter of last year. So hopefully, very soon, in a few months, we can get going. There's development time, so actually it's sequential. It's not parallel. So let's say we have like three bands. Um, I think you're stuck.
I could still hear you. Can you hear
Okay.
me? Yeah.
Yes. So let's say we have three bands. Usually it'll be sequential, in which we'll do band one first, then band two, then band three, as opposed to all three of them together. So, and also whether or not we do band three and band two and band three depends on the success of the first one. So hopefully we start in a month or two, and then it'll take 4, 5, 6 months more to actually have that kind of community come in. Over another 4 or 5 months, so like a year, we should have a good community around this whole thing, which would be built slowly, but like in a strong manner.
Yeah. And then is this going to be the type of thing where people can hold craniums or stallions or one of these other collabs to be a part? Are you going to sort of, I don't want to say like weight it higher to the cranium holders or something like that, but is it going to be like anyone who's in your holder set across all different collabs?
uh Probably not with all the different collabs. but craniums and stallions definitely.
Yeah. So, um, I forget what with stallions, you had to hold multiple craniums to get them. Is that correct, or is it opposite that I'm thinking?
No, one cranium equals one stallion.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So, have you found that most of the people holding stallions also hold craniums as well, or do they hold one or the other? It seems like the type of project where people would try to find like matching with your cranium to your stallion. Have you found a lot of people are trying to do things like that?
so everyone got their matching token ID to begin with. So if you had cranium number 123, you got stallion number 123, and the attributes were different. Uh, so you couldn't match based on attributes. But what I've seen is since the uh, floor of the stallions has gone down, it has allowed new people who don't have a budget to actually come into our Discord, have be a part of our community, especially new people who happen to be like in the communities that I was just talking about. Alternative
Yeah.
culture communities. So they buy a stallion, they come in. Now they can participate in our community events like poker, game night. So we have community events every week. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, so I guess tell me a little about the community events because I think that's one thing that a lot of bigger projects have. I don't want to say they've gone away from, but um, it seems like you don't hear about it as much as being part of the community. So, what are you guys doing on sort of a week to week basis, or maybe monthly right now?
So we were one of the first collection to start these events.
Hmm.
We started off with poker nights and movie nights, and we kind of expanded that into game nights and all that. And we've been consistent. Like we have a person who is responsible for hosting these events, and they do it consistently week on week. And I think it's a good place for people to engage with each other apart from just chatting on Discord or on a Twitter space.
Yeah, definitely. And do you have a good turnout on those? How many people are generally um, coming to those on a consistent basis?
Depends on Depends from time to time actually. Sometimes like not many people turn out, like you'll have 10, 20 people.
Hmm.
Sometimes way more than that. Like in the beginning way more people used to turn out, but I think the numbers have kind of fizzled out, and we have some core people who turn out and interact with each other. And like I feel like uh, people are over time people are actually making friends with each other, knowing each other, and I mean that was the initial goal, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think a lot of these sort of Discord communities, like that's really the goal behind it. The problem is you see some of these massive projects coming out with all this hype that have hundreds of thousands of people in their Discord, and it's just people spamming like when reveal, when drop, and all that sort of thing. But a lot of these smaller communities, especially the ones that started earlier on, like you guys starting last June. That was a time where there was a lot less people in NFTs, and it sort of allowed you to build that as a community, and people that can go in there and consider each other friends and want to spend time with each other, and that's where those sort of events are a pretty cool way to do so.
Yeah, definitely. And like uh even though a lot of people are in it for the financial incentive of making the profit. I've seen that those who had bags full of craniums still have a cranium just to be a part of the community. Like,
Yeah.
not completely out of the community. They're hodling on to one at least, even if they've sold the rest of their craniums, because uh, they like the community.
Yeah. And then tell me a little about the team that you guys have built on your side. So is it just you and Doob? Do you guys have more people helping with Reckless Labs versus Wicked Craniums? Like how big of a team do you guys have now?
So we have Law of the Saw, uh, who is managing the community events, hosting spaces. We have Caruso, which is managing everything up, kind of above that, merge drops, roadmap, any kind of issue related with craniums. He's there. We have Bees, who is our interface with different bands and different clients. Then we have a dev team that we have contracted out in India. Uh, so at least we have it. We have those four parts of the team.
Hmm.
And then there's Doob and Derb, which is me and my co-founder. Uh, but we divide our time between Craniums and Reckless Labs. So um, because we've been building a bunch of platforms on in Reckless Labs, playing around with a bunch of stuff, and uh, I feel like Craniums is one, the way I see it, Craniums is one project that we want to put all our effort into, but we just don't want to stick to Craniums and just make our lives around about Craniums. We want to do
Right.
interesting stuff, you know, innovative stuff beyond Craniums too.
And it's I want to call it like a life hack or something, but if you announce something as craniums, then people might tie it to, oh, the skulls, like this, what you guys have already done. But you can almost start something a little fresh if you do it through Reckless Labs specifically, because people are like, oh, what's Reckless Labs? And not everyone's gonna know that it's the same thing in like the higher level of it. Um, which is kind of cool when you're trying to branch off into new ventures like that.
Oh yeah, and I mean I'm a developer,
Hmm.
so I like developing, and uh, I'm just gonna keep doing that uh,
Yeah,
because yeah, it interests me. That's why.
yeah. Have you gotten into these sort of newer contracts that have been coming out, the 721 A's? Um, do you, when a new project comes out, like a competitor in a way, do you go in and sort of like read their code and see what other people are working on and how they're doing their drops now?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Uh,
do you participate in a lot of these other drops, or is it more for them from, like, afar?
I did participate in Animeta's Vogu's. So like around June, July, I was participating in these drops. But
Mhm.
then I got busy with other stuff and haven't been able to participate in these. I was trading punks and BYCs back in after the Cranium launch, which was nice because
Yeah,
it was yeah.
the
Uh,
hot time.
I, yeah, I missed out on mm, Cool Cats and like Clone. I couldn't buy it, although I was a fan of it. I went to a Murakami exhibit back when I was in Boston, so I actually like appreciated it.
Mhm.
Azuki, for some reason I never knew about Azuki. I didn't see it on my Twitter feed. No one told me about it. After they launched, I got to know about it.
Yeah, they kind of snuck up on me as well, where it was basically I think I had saw it at one point like pop up, and I probably looked at it and thought it was like something else and I wasn't interested in it. And then after the drop, I was like, "Oh wow, like there's a lot more involved in this project than I originally thought." So I mean, it is cool seeing the development of some of these bigger projects and teams. I know you'd mentioned before, but a lot of teams I think are going towards this token or um, game route,
Hmm.
and to an extent, I think some of them are getting hurt by it. Whether it's because maybe they don't know what they're doing, or um, kind of the idea of like biting off more than you could chew. But
Yeah.
so do you think like that is something that might be necessary for these really big teams, something like the Bored Apes, right? Like at some point, do they need something similar to a token because of how valuable the asset is, like a way for them to sort of get dividends in a way?
Uh, I don't think you need it. Theoretically and technologically, there are ways to get dividends from your NFTs. Uh,
Yeah.
but you can lend it, you can fractionalize it, you can do a bunch of stuff with just NFTs. The decision of whether or not you need to launch a token is something that ultimately the team decides.
Hmm.
And uh, I think a lot of teams are actually just they get a lot of like people coming up to them and saying, "Hey, when token, when token, when token,"
Hmm.
and a lot of the teams just end up giving into that and launching a token. But as long as it's an ecosystem token, as long as it's a token to vote on a DAO, as long as it's a utility token, sure, launch it. But there's a fine line between when a token becomes a security and when a token is a utility token
Right.
that you don't want to either you're so big that you can actually take care of the regulations, hire the lawyers that can get you to do that, or you just stay away from it. If you're building a game, you need a token for in-game currency, so that's a no-brainer. But if you're not building a game but you want to launch a token and you want to give rewards on top of that token, then that gets complicated in terms of regulation that's associated with it.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that is are in the plans for craniums moving forward, whether in the next couple months or this year?
Uh, I think we didn't talk about the cradle.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when Wicked Craniums launched, I had made this kind of a web app where you can actually, add a name and a story for your craniums, and other
So like
people
some
can read.
lore.
Yeah, and other people can read your story and look at it and uh, do stuff with it. When we launched Wicked Craniums, we had made the code open source, and we expected the community to come in and contribute to that app.
Oh,
We
cool.
even hosted a hackathon, out of which Pop Rank came out. Pop Rank is the aesthetic ranking website, and we funded them with 2 ETH at the time. But a lot of people liked what we did, but they didn't contribute to it. They didn't add features to it. So we've been building on top of the cradle, adding a chat feature to it so that craniums can talk to each other, adding a map feature so that you know where craniums are from. adding analytics to it. So we're building essentially a platform for the craniums, kind of a social media platform, and it's Web 2 based, so it's centralized right now. But my vision of it is to decentralize this app.
Um, yeah.
Uh, so that's something we've been working on. We've been working on the metaverse. So we have a lot of land on Sandbox, and we've talked to Decentraland people, and a bunch of other metaverses. And then I guess, yeah, metaverse, cradle, music. Those are the three things.
The main three for this year of craniums.
Yeah, yeah. I mean yeah. I, After the first 3 months of delivering and delivering and delivering constantly, I realized that wait, you got to build a brand. You got to deliver slow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found the sort of slow builders are the projects that have this lasting value because you're able to build the real community up versus some of these overhyped projects that, like Invisible Friends right now has to get into their community, you have to spend 8 Ethereum. So it's not
Mm,
for the same type of people that watch it go from like point 1 up to 8 Ethereum. People that are watching it grow versus people that have to take that early on risk. And I think it creates a lot more downside when they grow too fast. So it's always cool to see the slow growing communities.
oh yeah, definitely. And those who grow very fast also come down very fast. Craniums have always been stable. They haven't gone below a certain threshold. They haven't gone above a certain threshold. They've always been in that band. They're like a stable coin.
Hmm. Well, cool. Is there anything else that you'd like to plug while I have you on? I have the Wicked Craniums Twitter page on our description below. I can add that app if you'd like. Um,
Um, sure, it's called Wicked Craniums, cradle.com, but it's token gated to cranium holders. So
okay, so if you have to have you
yes,
connect to your MetaMask um, in order to get it.
exactly. Yes. But I think you can just link our Twitter handle.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and if they want, they can follow you, Wicked Derb, on Twitter as well. Um, and definitely check out Wicked Craniums. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the music side because that's been one everyone keeps talking gaming, 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 but I
Mm.
think the connection with music is the one that's going to grow as well because kind of like what you're talking about earlier, but I feel like most musicians who have entered NFTs got in through buying a board ape is how a lot
Mhm.
of them started. So I think there's a lot more musicians in this space than people might think. Potentially more musicians than athletes. If I were to guess, I would think there's more musicians that hold board apes than athletes.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's a lot of like smaller musicians are in there as well. So it's not as notable as when, say, like, I don't know, um, like if Drake were to buy an ape, that's headline news. But if one of these, smaller bands were to get in, like it's probably less noticeable. So um,
Yeah.
I think when an athlete joins, it makes headlines almost always. But when these smaller musicians do, people don't notice as easily. But I'm
No.
excited to see how you guys do on this roadmap too, and getting into these connections with the other bands. And I can also add the Reckless Labs Twitter handle into the description below as well, because I think what you guys are doing over there will be cool to watch and see how you guys can grow from here. So it was a pleasure having you on today. thanks for hopping on. Hopefully we'll be able to connect again down the road a little bit. Maybe we'll do another one of these shows once stuff gets up and running. So thanks for hopping on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And then we'll be back on Monday for Lucky Trader Lounge to talk about the upcoming week in NFTs. So come back if you guys are interested, and we'll talk to you next time.